For 300 years, the scientific method has run on one assumption. A human has to ask the question. A human has to notice the pattern. A human has to design the experiment. A human has to sit with the data and say, "I think I understand something new about the mind." That assumption just broke. In the summer of 2026, researchers quietly switched on a system that didn't wait for a human to ask the question. It asked its own. It designed its own experiment. It recruited real people online, ran the trial, collected the data, and came back with a theory about how the human mind works that no person had written down. Whether that theory survives scrutiny is still an open question, but the fact that a machine can now run the entire loop alone is not. This is the story of what happens when artificial intelligence stops being a tool psychologists use and starts being a researcher in its own right. To understand why this matters, you have to understand how slow psychology has always been. A single well-designed study can take years. A researcher reads hundreds of papers. They notice a gap. Maybe nobody has tested how people behave under a very specific kind of social pressure. They write a hypothesis. They design a task. They get ethics approval. They recruit participants, often students, often not enough of them. They run the experiment by hand, sometimes one person at a time. They analyze the results with statistics that can be misapplied. And then, if they're lucky, the finding replicates when someone else tries it again. Most of the time, it doesn't. This is what researchers have called psychology's replication crisis, a period, especially through the 2010s, when a huge number of textbook-famous findings failed to hold up when other labs tried to reproduce them. Famous effects about willpower, priming, and power posing all came under serious doubt. The field had a credibility problem, not because psychologists weren't smart, but because the human pipeline, slow, expensive, biased toward exciting results, wasn't built for rigor at scale. That's the system AI just walked into. To understand why this matters, you have to understand how slow psychology has always been. A single well-designed study can take years. A researcher reads hundreds of papers. They notice a gap. Maybe nobody has tested how people behave under a very specific kind of social pressure. They write a hypothesis. They design a task. They get ethics approval. They recruit participants, often students, often not enough of them. They run the experiment by hand, sometimes one person at a time. They analyze the results with statistics that can be misapplied. And then, if they're lucky, the finding replicates when someone else tries it again. Most of the time, it doesn't. This is what researchers have called psychology's replication crisis, a period, especially through the 2010s, when a huge number of textbook-famous findings failed to hold up when other labs tried to reproduce them. Famous effects about willpower, priming, and power posing all came under serious doubt. The field had a credibility problem, not because psychologists weren't smart, but because the human pipeline, slow, expensive, biased toward exciting results, wasn't built for rigor at scale. That's the system AI just walked into. So what happens when you let a machine loose on the human mind? In controlled comparisons on specific cognitive tasks, things like how people make quick decisions under uncertainty, AI-generated models have, in some cases, fit the actual human data better than the established, published theory. Not by a landslide, but better. That detail matters more than it sounds like it should. Cognitive psychology runs on competing models that all claim to explain the same behavior. For decades, choosing between them has come down to which one a respected researcher believed in and which one got published first. A machine doesn't carry that history. It doesn't have a favorite theory from graduate school. It just fits the curve. That's not the same as the AI suddenly understanding the human condition. Critics are already pointing out an important problem. Some of these systems may be doing something closer to extremely sophisticated pattern matching, finding a model that predicts behavior well without the model containing any real insight into why people behave that way. A separate, widely discussed study of an AI model trained to simulate human thinking found exactly this gap. It could answer correctly, but follow-up testing suggested it didn't actually understand the questions the way a person would. It had memorized the shape of the answer. So the honest version of this story isn't AI has solved the mind. It's stranger than that. AI may have found a new way to describe the mind, accurately, mathematically, without anyone, human or machine, fully knowing why the description works. Here's the part that should actually concern and excite anyone who follows psychology. For 100 years, the field has struggled with one core problem. Psychology doesn't have a single unified theory of the mind, the way physics has gravity. Instead, it has hundreds of smaller theories, one for memory, one for attention, one for motivation, that don't always agree with each other and sometimes contradict. Researchers have spent entire careers trying to find the grand unified theory of human cognition. Some recent AI models, like the cognitive model known as Centaur, were specifically built to test whether a single system could predict human behavior across more than 150 completely different psychological tasks: memory, attention, decision-making, all at once. Early results looked like a breakthrough. The model performed eerily well across almost all of them. Then came the second wave of scrutiny. Researchers stress-tested the model with small variations it hadn't seen before, and performance collapsed in places. The conclusion many drew wasn't AI failed. It was something more interesting. The model had learned an extremely good imitation of human answers, but whether that imitation reflects real psychological insight or just a very convincing statistical mirror is still being argued in journals right now, in real time. That argument is itself the discovery. For the first time, psychology has a tool that can be tested at a scale no human theory ever could. Hundreds of tasks run automatically, scored automatically, revised automatically, and the field is being forced to ask a question it's never had to answer before. What does it even mean for an AI to understand the human mind versus just predicting it? While the headlines focus on whether AI can outthink human psychologists, something quieter is happening underneath, and it might matter more. These automated systems are reaching populations the old method never could. A trial run entirely online by an AI can recruit participants in hours instead of months across countries at a scale that would once have required a research grant the size of a small university's annual budget. That means psychology, historically a field whose findings were built overwhelmingly on undergraduate students at wealthy Western universities, could, for the first time, actually start to reflect how the rest of the world thinks and behaves. It also means a problem psychologists have quietly known about for decades, that people in psychology research has usually meant a very narrow slice of humanity, finally has a tool that could fix it. But there's a catch, and it's not a small one. Several researchers studying AI-run mental health and well-being tools have already documented real risks. AI systems making confident-sounding claims about human psychology that turn out to be wrong, or AI-driven interactions that, in vulnerable people, reinforced harmful beliefs instead of correcting them. Handing more of the research pipeline to a machine doesn't just mean faster discovery. It means errors, if they happen, can also scale faster than any single biased human study ever could. That's the actual frontier here. Not will AI replace psychologists. It's who is checking the machine's work, and how fast can wrong ideas spread before anyone notices. So where does this actually go? Most researchers working in this space aren't predicting that AI replaces psychologists. They're predicting something closer to what happened in biology when gene sequencing became automated. The humans don't disappear, but their job changes completely. Less time spent on the slow mechanics of running a study, more time spent deciding which questions are even worth asking and judging whether a machine's answer actually makes sense. The systems being built right now are explicit about needing that human judgment. The automated trial with over 1,000 participants didn't just generate results and declare victory. Its findings were later cross-checked against additional, independently collected data, specifically because the researchers knew an AI-run study needed a second layer of verification before anyone should trust it. That's probably the real shape of the future. Not a machine working alone in a locked room discovering the secrets of the mind, but something closer to a tireless research assistant, one that never gets tired, never forgets a related study, never lets a personal theory bias the data, paired with a human who still has to ask at the end of every result, does this actually make sense, and who might this hurt if we're wrong? For all of human history, understanding the mind has been the one project only minds could attempt. You needed a thinking thing to study thinking. Now there's a second kind of thinking thing in the room. It doesn't get tired. It doesn't fall in love with its own theories. It doesn't need tenure or a grant renewal or to publish before a deadline. What it doesn't have yet, what no one can give it, is the thing that started this whole field 300 years ago, the discomfort of being a mind, wondering what a mind actually is. Maybe that discomfort is the missing variable. Or maybe, one day soon, a machine running its own experiment will find a way to explain that too. Either way, the question psychology has spent 3 centuries trying to answer just got a second kind of scientist asking it alongside us. And for the first time, we're not entirely sure what it's going to find.